I'll do it on your behalf as long as I've got your permission to speak to the vets about your records, obviously. Or if they did need to get involved, it would be very minimal. And that just, even that small thing made a big difference to that client journey. So I think sometimes if we start small, we can almost like have a bit of a snowball effect about these things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So one of the things that I do, my vet to vet consultations and vet to pet care professionals. So I'll often have perhaps a trainer that's kind of, they've reached sort of a bit of a roadblock with a particular patient that the dog's not able to learn. And, they think maybe we should bring a veterinary behaviorist on board because maybe medication is indicated here. And, they'll perhaps then touch base with the clients GP vet, and the GP vet will say, no, I've got no idea about behavior. And then they'll contact me, have a vet to vet consult or a vet to trainer consult. And, and oftentimes, as long as the GP vet is comfortable to say, I'm very happy to follow the recommendations given by the veterinary behaviorist and dispense whatever medications we think might be useful for that pet, then that starts to become, a little bit of a thing. And I often do it that I invoice the trainer, and the trainer then just passes the cost on to their client. And that works super well. So I've actually got a couple of situations like that where it's almost like myself, a trainer, and a GP vet, all three of us together on board. The GP vet just says, yeah, this is not my remit. I'm happy to go with the recommendations, Catherine's recommendations. And then all of a sudden, and of course the pet owner's tied in there as well. And all of a sudden you've got this like mini care group that then starts to work. So I agree with you, Vicky, starting things small like that can be really, really helpful. And then, you're all on the same page, you're all working towards the same goal, you're seeing that patient in the same light. And one thing that I found really, really useful is whenever I do have a case that's referred to me by a trainer, for example, I very much welcome them sitting in on that consult. So obviously they're usually virtual consultations, and the trainer, as long as they've got time to do so, they'll jump in or they watch the recording afterwards so that they know what I've discussed with the client, whether that's medication or I might give some additional thoughts around sleep or behavior modification or management or whatever that is. But I know a lot of veterinary behaviorists who are like really opposed to having anyone else come in on their consultations. And for me, it's actually, no, please come in, be there. I want you to understand, I want this to be a collaborative approach. And that's also working really well. So having that very open door policy where anyone can come in and listen in on the consult if the clients are happy for them to do so, and if they're involved with the pet as well. So that works quite well for
I
me.
would have absolutely loved that. If you'd invited me to do it, I'd be like, I'm there. Like, absolutely. Yeah.
But again, it's creating that team, isn't it? And of course, actually, from that client perspective, they're like, well, of course I'm going to want my trainer in, because otherwise, again, it feels really disconnected and detached and going like, oh, okay. And I think sometimes this is where that horrible human psyche kicks in and we're like, oh, my ego is involved now. So it's like, well, I have to be involved in this. But all for the wrong reasons, instead of going, well, okay, that's not necessarily my bag. I don't fully understand it, but I know enough to be able to bring the right person in. I can deliver it. Because as soon as actually, like Catherine, for example, has said, Joe, can you do X, Y, Z? I'm like, cool, yeah, of course. I know how to do that. I just didn't realise that that's probably what was needed. So Thank you. I can now crack on and do that.
But I think it's having conversations like this and going, this is the bit we don't do and this is the bit we could do with your help on, and vice versa for like trainers. It's going, where does your level of expertise end and where does mine begin? And I think unless we have these open and honest conversations about it and stop resource guarding our stuff, and that for me is like that crossover of going, I would love to know more about your the medical side of it, not to be a vet or not to try and tread on anyone's toes, but just to further my learning. And then at least I know what the whole process is and how it works for you and how it works for the client when they're speaking to you, and how like you might get the most out of it when they're speaking to me. So surely that's got to be a good thing, that openness. I
think also the other thing that I've seen is the confidence of the trainers where we've collaborated together has just gone through the roof, because like you say, they've been at a point where they're like, oh, I don't know anymore. Like, I'm stuck here. Like with, 90% of my other patients, this works. With this particular dog, this isn't working. because, there might be an underlying anxiety disorder or the brain neurobiochemistry isn't quite right. And instead of them being like, oh God, I can't do it, this isn't working, why isn't it working? It's got to be me, I'm rubbish. Then, they've brought me in and I've gone, well, actually, no, there's nothing you could have done here. We need to get the dog's neurobiochemistry right. This dog needs medications. And then all of a sudden the dog's on meds and is able to learn again. And then the trainer's like flying, because now all of a sudden all their tools work again. And the number of times I've seen that and they're like, oh my God, great, right, amazing. Their confidence levels have gone through the roof just by having just somebody else come in, look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and say, no, you're not doing anything wrong at all. What you're doing is 100% right. This patient is just different because of X, Y, Z. And that's been so lovely for me to see, just to be able to be like, yeah, we've got this. We're going to be able to help these clients, and patients. It's fine. You're not a rubbish trainer. It's just that this patient is different.
Yeah, and it's almost linking it back to that imposter syndrome bit that is, isn't it? Yeah.
And that judgment feel. I think this fear of judgment on anything, on going, if I'm telling Katrin or if I'm telling Vicky that I've done this thing, and then they're thinking, well, I wouldn't have done that. That's not. So, now I'm a bad trainer. Like, you're shit. You don't know what you're doing. But it's like, I was going to say there's so many ways to skin a cat, but that sounds like a really bad phrase to use.
Poor cats.
Yeah, sorry, cats. We love you too. You know what I mean, though? It's like there's so many ways to approach something. And I think, again, this fear of judgment that we are doing it wrong, and this isn't even touching the methodology chat. God forbid anybody should have that chat. Your face says a lot there. But you know what I mean? Like, it's because, again, arguably, like, if you're going to go and you're asking for help, whether you use tools or you don't use tools or however you train, like, we're not here to say whether you're right or wrong or whatever. It's going, how can I ask for help when how can I ask for help? It's almost like full stop at the end of that, because if I'm doing something and I genuinely don't know any other way, if I'm going to get barraged with a load of judgment and shame, then how are we ever going to learn and grow and evolve and, just be able to have these types of conversations without feeling like I'm going to come out with a pitchfork?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like squishing the real version of yourself, isn't it? Because you are so scared to put anything out there for fear of what will come back.
Yeah, no, totally. I've seen that a number of times as well. And that's something that's really important to me is to be somebody who helps to change that narrative, to be a veterinary behaviorist with all the letters, that is approachable, that will not judge, that will be like, yeah, it's all good and we can do this. So I think, and because I think there have been people that have had really not so nice experiences, I think, with professionals. And I want to be one of the people that helps to change that and to, be approachable and be somebody that is supportive and that people can come to when they're struggling and they want to ask for help. That doesn't mean to say I've always got all the answers, but I'm another brain to brainstorm. And, I think that already sometimes just listening and chatting is already a really good first step.
But it is, though, isn't it? It's such a nice space to be in when we can kind of go, right, let's just put our opinions and our emotions to one side and let's just have a conversation and go, like, how can I help? Okay, I may not agree with everything that you're doing, but that doesn't always mean I'm going to shame you and make you wrong. It's like, well, I'm really grateful that you felt you can have that conversation with me. And now let's learn from it, because actually, on the flip side, I could learn something from you. I may not understand it, I may not agree with it, but there is something, it's my belief, like, you can learn something new all the time, even if you don't agree with it.
Absolutely, from anyone. I think you can learn something from anyone, even, like you say, if you don't believe in it wholeheartedly, let's at least hear why they think that, and let's see if we can come to some sort of middle ground with it, because it just doesn't make sense, does it, as human beings, to keep fighting these things and doing the thing your way and everyone else is doing it differently.